Okay, and then I'll magnify this. I was trying to figure out how to change font on this to make it bigger because I wanted to show you the path. So tools, it doesn't change anything, I don't think. Go to line, find and replace. I don't see any font options on this. This is just the notepad thing here. I just made a new one document. Close without saving. I don't know if I can make this big enough.
I can try. I don't know exactly where I can mess around with it a little bit.
Sure, do you know where? Go ahead if you want. I just want the font on this. I mean, I could use the word. I could use. That's actually something I could do. I could just use LibreOffice.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Uh,
I don't necessarily want to change the whole resolution.
um, okay. Yeah,
I'll
I'm in
just use the
setting. Okay.
LibreOffice. I'll just close this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use LibreOffice because I know I can change the font in that. I just want to make it big enough to show you where the Windows path is. So I don't want calc. This big zoom is sort of a. All right, LibreOffice. Okay, that's LibreWriter. And then I'll just make the font 18 or so, maybe a little more, 24. So this is only relevant to those of you trying to install, get everything to work on Windows who can't find the Python. All right, by default, Python is installing in C users, app data, C users, current user, whoever the current user is. So I'm going to put that in square brackets. So whatever your name is on there. This is on Windows only. And then it'll be app data, programs, and then it will be Python 3.6 or 3.7, whatever you install. Now, the one reason why this is really hard to find, app data is a hidden folder. So you have to unhide your folders to see that. But this is the default path, so you should be able to, if you put it in the environment tool in Windows, this is the environment, it should allow you to get to the Python command. Or at the command line, you can type path and then all of this, and it will let you use the Python command. When you install it, if you check the little path mark, it should be available. You shouldn't have to do that. On the install for 3.6 and 3.7, there's a little checkbox that says add path. And if you do that, then Python should be available from anywhere. The other thing I'll say real quickly before we move on to other stuff is that on some people's machines, PowerShell will not allow you to execute Python commands. If that's the case, use CMD command. That's the older command prompt. It works just fine. It doesn't have any objections to Python commands. It's a security thing which you could go and change, but yeah, just use command. Even in, so let me, even in here, when you install a new terminal, one of the things that it'll let you do, I guess I'll just add a new terminal. Will it give me the choice? Well, actually, it won't give me a choice here because there is only the bash terminal. But on Windows, it'll let you configure your terminal, and you can choose CMD or you can choose PowerShell. And I can sort of help you with that, although I've been spending hours trying to configure machines, which I think one of the things that I may do for next time I teach this is try to create a step-by-step thing for configuring Windows as well as stuff. Macs, I don't know, as I said. So Macs, maybe my wife has a Mac. Maybe I can steal it and configure it on there so I can get a. Okay, so there's a new version, which I'm not going to do right now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you need to unhide the file first?
Well, you don't need to unhide it to type the path in, right? But if you want to see it, if you want to confirm that path, you'll have to unhide it. Generally, on the Windows dialog box, there's a view. When you click on view, it has the option to show hidden files. They're hidden usually for a reason, because if you mess with them, you mess stuff up. But okay, so the other thing I'm going to do real quickly here, so let's open our file, our folder, and we're on Tech Review, which is where I want it to be. Actually, since we're there, I don't need to do this. I can cancel that. I wanted to real quickly walk through the structure and what we've done, because there seems to be some confusion. And then we'll add the new stuff here. So are you guys, there's like 3 levels of folders, right? There's an outer project folder, right? It's whatever you name, Python Club, Tech Review 2, there's the outer folder. Inside of that, side by side, there is a second Tech Review folder, and there's whatever your app folder is, right, when you make that. So those are side by side. The project folder that has the same name as the outer folder, so Tech Review 2, has, let's see if I can, because I think I'm on the far outside, so let's go down to, there's Tech App. I want to get up to Tech Review 2. VS Code, Tech App. Am I one folder in too far? I'm not seeing the other folder, so let's do File, Open Folder, Tech Review 2. Okay.
I think the 3 were already. It's
Yeah,
way down there.
It's way down there. Oh,
Yeah,
and because I have to scroll down here to go down there. I see. I don't like my view being bigger than that, but I do want it big enough for you guys to see. So the other thing, is this black view work? I mean, I could change it to black on white if that's easier to see.
So the second Tech Review 2 that you're showing is
Right,
project folder?
Yeah, this is the project folder, and it has the settings pie, the URLs pie, and this WSGI pie. The WSGI pie is what we will, if we actually make it work with Apache, that's where we do that.
So the 3 folders, what's the top, second, third, what are they? Repeat it for me, please.
So the top level is just a container.
Okay.
So when you say create project and you give it a name, it creates an outer folder,
Okay.
and then it creates an inner folder which it has the same name.
Okay, but the one you're pointing to is the.
This is the inner folder.
Okay.
So this won't show up, but no, I need a pen. So when you create a project, so I'm just going to say project, what do we call it? Django project. So whatever you name it.
Okay.
So it creates a folder, and inside of that, it creates another the Django project.
And that's what you call Tech Review 2 on the screen.
Right.
The first Tech Review 2.
Right, and it also has the manage pie, which is really, we're gonna use Manage Pi over and over again. It's sort of the key. Now, when you add an app, it adds so we'll call it Django app. That folder is on the same level. There are two folders inside this outer one.
Oh, okay.
Django project, Django app.
So it's not 3 levels, but there's 3 folders.
There's 3 folders, right? And then inside this folder is the settings pi, right? And which is the URLs pi, etc. The app, when you add the app, has, let's go back up if I can. I have to do it over here. It has, by default, before we do anything, it didn't have the templates by default, but it has admin pi, apps pi, models pi, test pi. It didn't have URLs. We added that. And it has views pi. It puts those there. They're all empty.
So
They all
when you
just
do a
say,
project, it just defaults to those things.
yeah, well, so you do a project and then you have to create an app, right? Because a project can contain many apps. Each app would be another folder in that outer project folder.
But our app is under template.
Well, no, our apps is under,
Tech app.
but it's under tech. Tech app is what it would be, yes.
Right, it's under template.
But no.
It's how it's lined up.
This is different. This is tech app.
So there's
So that's
two.
our app. Now, we added inside of there, and this can be confusing. They do lots of folders that have the same names because that's how Django by default finds things. So it knows what we created an outer project tech review. The inner app we call tech app. This is where the HTML goes. By default, it looks for your HTML files under a templates folder, and it is case sensitive. If you do a capital T, it won't find it. So it's a templates folder. And then inside the templates folder, it assumes that there is a subfolder that has the same name as the app. And again, the point of this, the reason why Django does that as a default is because you could have multiple apps. So what happens is that you could have each app under templates would have its own folder for its own HTML templates. Does that make sense?
we get too confused.
Yeah, so you could have, if we did another app, we could have another subfolder here. The base here is just under templates, and that's just sort of your HTML outer screen kind of thing. So that file pattern, it confused me for a long time. Right? Once I've got it down, it makes sense. But whenever you create a project, outer folder creates a project folder. Create an app, it puts the same folder right beside the app, the project folder. Right? And then inside the app folder, you add templates. I don't know why it doesn't add templates and the subfolder automatically for you, but it does.
So there's 2 levels of nesting with duplicate titles.
Yes. Yeah, the nesting, I kind of wish that they had a way that not everything had the same name, but that's how it searches it, is by name, I think. Okay, so most of our work will be in the tech app, right? The other side, the only things that we need to do there, and once it's done, you really don't have to do it again. So I have to move over here. Are the settings, and then we redirect the URLs. You don't have to redirect the URLs if you're only going to have one app, but I wanted to show you how to do that, right? If you're going to have multiple apps, it gets confusing here in this URLs if you try to do a long list of URLs, because every view that we create is going to have its own URL. So what we did is we redirected this URL to this one. They have the same name again, so there's that problem of names being the same, but they're in different folders.
So the bottom half there, tech review 2.
This is the project level URLs. This is the app level URL.
Why did you direct one to the other?
So if you were going to have multiple apps, this one could get really confusing. It's considered best practice in all the tutorials that I read to redirect it to the app URLs. That way you only have to deal with the URLs that are relevant to your app in this home. Whereas if this one, again, if you had multiple apps, you'd have to have them all in there and it can get confusing. Yeah.
Are you recording yet?
I am recording. Yeah. Yeah.
So the outer folder for the container is technically two. Project level folder is technically two also.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the things you could do, I know there seems to be a fear to create some apps, create some, just go in there and make some, even if you don't use them, just so you can see what it does. Does that make sense? Think of something that you might want to just play with. Worst case scenario, it all goes to crap and you just delete it. There's nothing you can hurt, right? So, yeah.
Maybe this is obvious, but it's not today. Analogously, we have Django projects as our outer folder, Django projects as our subfolder.
Right. So this could be, I probably wouldn't name it. So there is Django projects, right? Which is just a folder. You don't even have to make that. It's just a way of organizing your files.
You can do it ITC.
You can name it ITC 172. You can name it whatever.
So the Python club one will be Python club, outer container, and Python club, and then the app is club app.
Yes. Or club, however you want to name it. Yeah, whatever you want to name it. I'm going to open up the file thing here. I don't know if this will help. I double click, and in Linux you don't need to double click. So we have, this is home. Home is for the current user, right? It's basically the home files for the current users. There are deeper files, which we're not going into, which are the root files that have all the program stuff. But this one, it has a desktop, it has documents. It's not that different from the Windows home place. So we could have created it in documents if we wanted. But I just created a folder called Django Projects. So if I open that folder, we have two projects, Python Club project and Tech Review, right? So those are those are the outer folders. Notice on this level is also the virtual environment. And I think that you have to install the virtual environment even if you're going to work ultimately with Apache. I think it uses the virtual environment. One of the problems with Python is it doesn't have any actual way to hook into web pages except through this virtual environment.
Can you access the virtual environment on the in the Linux terminal?
I think you can. I think it actually exits you whenever you leave the prompt.
Can you see the out of it? So it says the
VENV, yeah.
in the parentheses, and then you're
Right. So that I think exit gets you out of there or quit, one of the two. These files you don't need to get into, right? These are basically just the program files that are making the virtual machine possible. I mean, the virtual environment. It's not really a virtual machine. It's just a virtual environment.
Steve, can you review when you open a virtual environment and when you migrate it?
So we're going to do some migrating in a moment, but the virtual environment, you basically need to do that in order to run the server at any time, right? If you want to run the server, you need to be in the virtual environment. The Python files you could probably edit without the virtual environment running, because they're just Python.
So that makes the virtual environment. Can you load everything in the virtual environment? The Django project?
I wouldn't.
Oh, how do you get back out of the virtual environment and load the Django environment?
Well, so when you're in the virtual environment, you actually, when you're running it, is when you would probably install. Before you get there, actually, before you can have the virtual environment work. I'm trying to remember, what is the order that we did these in? Did we do the virtual environment and then install Django? Or did we install Django and then add the virtual environment? So I think you just install Django and the virtual environment, then you install that.
I'm trying to get back out of the virtual environment to do that, but I'm not able to leave it by CD it out.
If you've got the virtual environment, you should have Django installed. I mean, I'm not sure it would work without it.
Is this,
You just hit deactivate and it gets out of the virtual
force exit.
Or exit, yeah. Question.
Is this, the virtual environment is only required because probably Windows, you don't need it?
No, you need it on,
You do.
you need this on Windows. There's nothing different between Linux and Windows here.
Okay.
This is what makes it so that Python can talk to web pages.
So the command to run the server or the bit active.
So wouldn't you need that for Windows too?
Yes, you need it for Windows too. It doesn't have to be named VNV. That's actually the name of the command, and I was following the prompt in the tutorial that we followed.
Mine's ENV.
You can name it, I actually usually name it ENV01 or something. You can name it whatever you want. So we'll look at that in a moment. So let's look at Tech Review 2 again. So notice there's the inner Tech Review 2 and the Tech app. They're on the same level. Also manage Pi. So in the Tech Review 2, again, the settings, URLs, WSGig. The init Pi is an empty field. It's necessary if you're going to import things. Don't know why, it's just a Python thing. All right, so I'm going to go back. Inside the Tech app, which is the app part of this, we have the admin, which we will play with a little bit today. We have apps, again, the empty thing that's necessary for reporting. Migrations, which pretty much we're going to leave that folder alone. It does, we're using it, but we don't have to actually go in there and do anything with it. Models, tests, URLs, and views. We will play with tests later too. I'll show you how to test things. We created the templates folder, right? And inside the templates folder, we have the base HTML, and then we have Tech app. And inside that Tech app folder, so far we have just index. Does that help? Does that make sense? I mean, it's a little bit complicated. For what it's worth, I have seen other frameworks, and they're just as complicated. The trick is you're trying to break things up by functionality. And so they've broken things up, project level functionality, app level functionality. And then within them, they've broken it into separate files to do each of the separate things. Like what we're going to play with in a minute is models. But they've broken it up so that there are views, right? Models are where you're going to put the data, the structure for the database. There's a place to create your tests. There's a place for the URLs. And there's a place for your views, which are going to be the functions that, you know, talk to the web pages, that move the stuff from the data to the web pages, and from the web pages to the data. Views in most model view control patterns, views are actually closer to controllers than views. They behave like controllers, but for some reason Python calls them views. Does that help at all? Are you guys any less lost or are you more lost? The other thing that I would say, if it gets really screwed up, your best bet is really to delete it all and start over. It can be a lot easier to do that than to fix it. I've done that many times. As I said, I do have some sympathy for your struggles because it took me a while to figure this out. Partially because I'm not real good at reading tutorials. I read a little bit and I do it, and then I do something else. And if I'd have read through it beginning to end, I might not have made so many mistakes. Yes, I'm impatient. Okay. What else? Is there anything else I need to? Now's a good time for questions. We're going to move to models, but any other questions about the general layout of this? Now, in the Visual Studio Code, I would link really to the outer folder, because that will give you both of the inner folders, right? And it also gives you the manic, so you can see both the Tech app and the Tech Review folders.
Still, everything we do in class in Tech Review, you're going to want us to do also with
Right. So That actually is a good thing to remind. Tech review is for in-class samples. Python Club is for the assignments. Most of what I show you, particularly because this is complicated, will be like a direct one-to-one relation with what you would do in Python Club. There will be some differences. For instance, the model for Python Club is a little bit different than the model for tech review. But I gave you in the assignment, that was the other thing I was going to show you, is I kind of described how those models will look. I didn't ask you to come up with it out of your head. So let's see if I can go here. So in the models, this is the assignment there, but we're going to do this with tech review. Create model classes for the Python Club. These should include a meeting, which will have fields. So I told you what a meeting title, meeting date, meeting time, location, and agenda. And then there will be a minutes, which will have a meeting ID, which is a foreign key, attendance, a many-to-many field with user, and minutes text. And then a resource, which will have the resource name, resource type, URL, date, user ID, which is a foreign key, and description.
These are tables.
These, well, they're models here. They will become tables in Postgres. So we'll register them, we'll trouble them, shoot them. We'll create a super user, and we'll try to go to the admin site and look at them. So that's a lot. I think we can do it.
Model, what's that equivalent to say otherwise?
Well, they would actually be called a model in any kind of. So a model is essentially a code class that will be converted to a database table. So typically, there's two ways to go. One of the ways which we're doing it is we're going to create the models in Python and transfer them to the database. The opposite way of doing that is to create the database and transfer it into Python. Either way, it results in a code in the model where basically what the model is a Python description of what the database table will look like. Does that make sense?
And you transferred it. It
Yeah.
automatically becomes a table.
So one of the things that this is true with a lot of database frameworks, frameworks that talk to databases. One of the things you do is you take the tables and the relations and you model it in code as a layer between you and the database. And some of the stuff that model will do, and Python does this all as a magic trick in the background, is that along with the model, you get the ability to insert, update, delete, the whole crud. And it will do magic things with relationships. It's all done in the background. It's even more in the background than it is in C#, which I used to teach, which still does a lot of things in the background. I haven't done the PHP. I'm not sure how much PHP does this in the background. So, but anyway, it's not uncommon to create a data layer, as they call it, which are a set of classes that map to the database classes, database tables. Okay, so that's sort of what we're going to do today, but are we ready? The other thing that I will reiterate while I'm here in the web page is that if you go to GitHub, SP Conger, and if you go to repositories, right, this Tech Review 2 has what we're doing in class. So it has everything that we've done in class so far. So let's go back. So the settings changes that we made. Maybe I'll review those real quickly. Remember what we did in setting? This is something some of you have forgotten. You have to register your app. If you don't register your app under installed apps and settings, it'll keep saying it can't find stuff because it doesn't know what your app is. So that was one thing we did there. And the other thing is the database again, and we set it up to be Postgres, just because I like Postgres a lot better than SQLite. It's also the tutorials and stuff. They'll say SQLite is okay for development testing, but if you want anything real, you need a real database. So we did a real database with Postgres, tech review, password, and again, you can set those. So that's what we did there. The other thing that I'll show since I'm here, and I guess it's in tech review too. I found this problem on a lot of them. So we import, you have to make sure you import include. A lot of people didn't import include. The other thing is this slash here. If you don't put that slash there, it won't find your index page. It won't find the URLs. A lot of people have tech app here with quotes, but not this backslash. And that basically means it won't find the path. Like most programming languages, one character out of place will screw up everything. And it can be, because things are happening in so many different places, it can be a real pain to find out where things are going wrong. I just, as a warning. And it's almost always a character or a typo. Okay. Anything else? The other one other thing I wanted to show you. This is the very last thing, and then we'll do our new stuff. So there's a tech review 2. There's also tech review Django. And I only show you this because, so I'm going to go into reviews, which is the app name there. And so I'll look at models because that's what we're going to do. Everything that we're going to do is already done there. All right, that's the same app, different name, but it's the same app. I did it in preparation for the class, right? I went through. We may make some minor changes to it. So the Tech App 2 will show what we do in class, because there may be some things that we do along the way that are a little bit different. But everything that we do is there. So if you feel lost, you can always go there. And the stuff that we did, it's going to be in 2 places. The stuff we've immediately done in class will be in Tech Review 2. And this is Tech Review Django app. And everything that we're going to do is also there.
Can you just repeat the path to get to this?
So this is just Tech Review Django under repositories, under GitHub/spconfig.
Tech reviews, models.
Yeah, so if you go into tech reviews here, so you've got reviews and tech reviews. This is the project folder, and this is the app folder. And you can just, you just click around. You want to look at forms? We're not going to do that for a while, but here are some forms. Just a couple of them. Only did 2. We might do more than that. We'll see. All right, I am going to lower this.
See, can I show you something before we start?
Yeah.
Under settings.
Well, let me try. All right, so let me get, I'm going to lower this. And this. So I am zoomed, I think, right? It'd be in settings, I think.
Yeah, it's settings and more slides. Oh, no, but
I'm just curious.
oh, no, settings for the Ubuntu.
Oh, for Ubuntu.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll do that later. I'll explore those.
Okay.
So let's I'll get out of here.
So Steve, just to confirm, in your GitHub under Tech Review Django, that's what we're eventually going to end up duplicating.
That's yeah, but with maybe a few differences.
Okay, is there anything that we're gonna do that we're gonna change later? In other words, that if we look at Tech Review Django as a model, as long as we match that at some at the face.
So I said we may add some things to it. Like one of the things that it doesn't have that I'm going to add for the model is how to let a field be null. Because otherwise you have to insert into everything, right? If you don't say that it's null. The other thing that's there, and again, I don't necessarily want to spend too much more time on these. There is, so let's go back to SP Conger again. There are other Django things if you want. So I've been making a reading app, which is sort of my version of Goodreads, where I record what books I read and when I start them and when I end them and the things. And it's a slightly more sophisticated app than what we're doing, but only slightly. So that's a Django app. It's got all of that kind of stuff. And there's also a project. That's an example. And there's also a project manager example that I created that's kind of to do. I might try to make more sophisticated versions of these at some point. But so there's all those examples. The other thing that I would say is that there are lots of good tutorials there. I listed a few of them in those pages. There's Django Girls. It's actually really good. If you follow that through, it'll help you create a Django project that's not too bad. There's a tutorial in the documentation itself that's not too bad. That lets you create a kind of a blog with it. And then there are hundreds of other tutorials out there that are, some of them are fairly decent.
And the textbook you referenced?
The textbook is okay. It's a little out of date. So it uses Django.
This is a lockdown drill. Please get out of public areas, find the nearest room, and shelter in place. This is a lockdown drill. Lockdown, lockdown, lockdown.
So in real life, we'll close the door. I would not shelter here. It has too many windows.
Yeah.
But
We're locked in now.
yeah, we're locked in. But again, I wouldn't necessarily shelter here. I don't know how long this is going to do. They're going to make another annoying announcement in a moment. I don't know where would be good to go, actually. Everything here has lots of windows.
That's right.
There are classrooms around the corner. I mean,
That's true. The 317, the ones on that side, they have out-facing windows, but they don't have windows out to the hall.
yeah.
That'd probably be the better route.
Stairwells.
Yeah. I don't know. Stairwells are not necessarily very safe.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause they-
You can't lock them.
Oh, no, yeah, just to get out.
What?
You can run away.
You can run away, yes, which might actually be the better route at this point. I don't know.
There's actually some new theories about how you can't just hide, you need to engage.
Yeah,
The teaching teachers have to fight back.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Well, not you personally.
No, just in general.
Big guy.
Are you volunteering?
But Jeff did that.
Thanks, Andy, for volunteering.
It's usually pretty dangerous to attack somebody with a gun, unless you can get behind them.
They say otherwise you're just a victim.
Yeah,
It's an interesting shift in orientation.
I think it's more I don't know.
Do you have a gun to your gun training classes?
I don't own a gun. I actually grew up in North Idaho with a lot of guns, but I don't own it. My brothers, and they do. Should we continue, or do you guys want to wait for the lockdown to be announced
You can just
over?
continue.
Yeah, okay. So let's do models. So again, this is under the app.
So homework will always be to do what you've done.
Yeah, pretty much the homework is always just doing kind of what I do. I'm going to move this over. I'm not sure why that's so wide. And notice you have a helpful little thing and a little prompt. Create your models here. So, and notice that we have an default import. We're importing models. So the models that we're going to do,
Are we on models folder now?
I am. So I went down and clicked on models. Yeah. So we're going to create, I don't know what we want to call it, but basically a product type. So we're going to do this. The idea of this website is we're going to review different tech, right? So like laptops and iPads, and if you wanted to get detailed, you could say video cards, you know, whatever you want to do. So this is basically just going to be a lookup table that says what kind of types there are. We'll do one that is basically just the product, right? So what is the product? We'll do one with the review. And we could, we might just leave it at that. I do want to do one other import. Let's see if I can remember this. If I can't remember it, I'll go look it up. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to look it up because I don't want to spend forever doing this. So let's just go to repositories. I'll just do one. It doesn't matter which one because I've done this in most of them. What I want to do is import users. I just need to remember what that path is. I didn't import users there. So let's go back.
Steve, can you also add why you're doing this stuff for 40 users? So
Because I want users to, when you create a review, it should be assigned to a user, right? And one of the things that we'll do at the very end is we want to authorize, create a login so that only registered users can add reviews. Does that make sense? So that won't work because we haven't done it there yet. Brain.
is a user a manager of the site, or is it a
So a user is just anybody that was going to use the site.
Okay. It's custom.
Yeah, and we'll look at those actually a little bit today. Okay, this is what I wanted. Contrib. That was the word I couldn't remember. So when I go back here, so it's from Django contrib.auth models. So one of the things, remember when we did the migrate, you saw a lot of these auth, those are authorization, right? So there's a whole bunch of tables that are already in the database if you did your migration. And if you didn't get the migration done before, it'll work. We'll do it today. But there's a bunch of tables in there to handle users and roles and authorization and permissions and things like that. They're empty, by the way, mostly, but they're there. And the reason I want to do this is that we're going to, rather than create a table with Python for tracking users, we're going to let the application track the users. So you'll have to register. It'll store them in the database also, but there already is a place for them there. So we will just use the place that it has pre-prepared. So that's for the user.
The campus lockdown drill is now clear. You can return to class and resume normal business. The lockdown drill is clear. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue. We all survived this one. I do worry about that a little bit. And definitely, if it was real, I would say to get out of this room. 317, something over there would probably be better. Yeah. Thank you. I was just saying, in real life, we'd probably not want to be in this room. There's too many windows.
Any of our rooms? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to create a class, and I will call it product type. This is actually different than what I named it in the one online. I think I called it tech type or something, but product, I'm going to do models.model. Okay, and then I'm going to do a colon, and we'll start down. And basically what we're going to do now is define the fields. So a couple of things. Class product type, that's just the name of the class. Anybody know what's happening with models.model? I'm not sure we covered that in Python 101.10 or whatever. But
That's in the tech app.
what?
That's in the tech app.
It's in the, so models is in the tech app, yes. The file is already there. So then we're just editing the models one. Right, it says create your models here, so we're starting that. This is how Python does inheritance. We are inheriting from the model class that's in the models file library. So this is how Python does inheritance. It's actually weird, but I won't go into that. But
Is that code in the GitHub?
it is. Although I think I named this tech type instead of product type. No, so inheritance, when you inherit, so you have a class called model. What happens is that product type gets to have all the parts of model that are public. It gets all the fields, all of the, all of the properties and methods that are belong to model. So it's a way of, and then what this is doing is it's extending model. It's making a more particular model based on the more abstract model. A little bit of object-oriented theory could probably go for a while, but it'd take too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, the other thing is I'm not going to define a primary key, although you can. The thing is, if you don't define a primary key, you automatically get an auto-numbered ID. Okay, so we'll just let it do that. So this is going to be a real simple one. The main thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do product name. And I'm going to say that equals models dot, that should work, models dot, I'm not there it is, character. I'm not getting the IntelliSense that I want. Models.carfield, yeah. Not sure why I'm not getting. We imported user, we got models. Models.model. What? Yeah, let me look and see. It should be capitalized, but why is it
Care, uppercase F-I-E-L-D.
Yeah.
So lowercase c, uppercase F is what's being suggested right now.
That's odd. So I'm not getting any.
Let's have this in the online resource.
I'm just weird why I'm not getting more IntelliSense there. So one of the things you have to do with the car field is this is a required attribute, max length, and I'm just going to say 255. And I'm just looking at this, yeah. So I don't know why I didn't get IntelliSense there. I'm going to do product description equals models dot text and let me look at that again. Lack of I did it as care field there too. So we could do it as a car field, but why is it not giving me the IntelliSense? It's driving me nuts. I am curious. So we're at Python. So that's correct. We'll let it be. We'll see what happens when we try to. I don't. Yeah, I do. For this, I do. If I do care field, I have to give it a link. The other thing is, let's say we don't want to do a description, and this is a little different. I can do comma after this, and I can say null equal true, and blank equals true. The blank is for the form. Eventually, now is true capitalized? Yes, because I wanted it to be colored. This would allow you not to have to fill it in. If you put null equals true, blank equals true. This is to allow the database null. This is for the form that we'll eventually create to say that it can be null. So if you don't fill in a description, it won't stop you. Otherwise, if you don't have these two things, you have to fill it in, and which you may want. But I just wanted to show you how to do that. Now, again, I'm really wondering why no IntelliSense. Did you guys get any IntelliSense? So why am I not getting IntelliSense?
Is it possible that it has something to do with you being zoomed in so much?
Possibly.
And sometimes GUI elements can mess up in situations like that. Although I'm assuming that's just Linux's own zoom.
Yeah.
Then probably.
Well, actually, I think I'm zooming in here. It's actually not Linux Zoom. I think I created the zoom in here. I do want to, we're going to add another thing, and this is actually important. So I'm going to do def string self. Actually, is it string? It's def. Why is my brain totally screwing up?
Underscore.
It's string str. Yeah, I knew string wasn't right.
Underscore.
Double underscore. Double underscore str double underscore. This is a default method for any class, and it returns by default. If you don't put this in here, it's going to return the name of the class. If you just say print class, it returns the name of the class. If you enter this string double underscore str double underscore self, it will, you can determine what it's going to return. And I want it to return self.product name. So instead of returning the name of the class every time, I want it to return the product name. This is kind of important because otherwise when you're getting drop-down lists and stuff, it'll just say product type 1, product type 2, product type 3. That's not very useful. If you do this, it'll give you a drop-down list of the names of the products. Although shouldn't be a product name, this should be a product type name, right? I'm just looking at my thing.
You have the self.type name.
So let's just call it type name. And then we'll change this to type name. Do you guys know self in this context? So in Python classes, the way you say that something belongs to a class is you always have to identify it as self. And you have to pass self to every method that in the class to do that. Again, Python only partially implements object-oriented concepts. And this is one of the weird things they do to get around some of the other things. If you just did return return type name, you would not recognize it as belonging to the class, and it would give an error. Couple of things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can have as many definitions if you want in here if you need them. So we're not going to add a lot of definitions. We'll always have the string. But you could add a definition to, like if it was a sale or something, you could do a function to calculate the results and things like that. These classes are full classes. They can have functions. They can have whatever you need. I am going to do one other little weird thing just to show you it.
Classes, database, and the programming around it.
Yeah, so it can be. I mean, so if you want to manipulate things coming from the database and stuff, this is the key part that it will transfer to the database, right? What it'll transfer to the database are the two columns, the data type, and the null rules.
And if you had Python programming around it, that would just be...
That's just within the program here. It doesn't transfer those to the... Now this is a weird class meta allows you to establish some other things about this. One of the things you can say is, and this I did in the thing, but there's other things you can do. DB table equals, and we're going to say the table is product type. And what that does is it will set the name of the table in the database. There are some other things you... What?
Product type, or did you change the type name?
This is this.
Oh, okay.
This is what the name of this table will be in the database. So if you want to control that, you can do that. You can also do, what are the plural? There's a DB plurals, so you can say what your plural is going to be. Because one of the things it does in the IntelliSense later is it'll give you a plural of this, because there'll be multiple objects of this kind. So, I mean, there are lots of meta things that you can add that are really about describing other behaviors of the class. Does that make sense, sort of? So this is our first data class. Notice this class is internal. It's a class inside of a class, right? These all belong to product type. Okay, so let's create another class. This one goes all the way out to the margin because this is not internal, and we'll call it product. And we will import models.model. And in a colon. All right, so for the product, this time we want a product name. Last time I was getting ahead of myself. And this, again, should be like a car. I'm just worried that I'm not getting, there it is. Car field, and then max underscore length equals 255. And I'm not going to want that to be null. Let's do product type. And what we want to do, maybe we want to leave that as product. Yeah, we could leave that as product type. I'm going to do, oh, this should be models, Carfield, right? It's weird that that came up in it. And I'm going to do models dot, and again, no IntelliSense. Foreign key, why am I not getting it? Did I do something wrong?
I got it.
And that, there's nothing different in yours than in mine, right?
I don't think so. I think we're
I just don't, it's weird that I'm not getting it, the IntelliSense. Oh well. Foreign keys, without the IntelliSense, I'm a little more lost too. Let me look real quickly on the foreign key. So, you want to say what it's related to, and then you have to give it an on delete action. So let me go back there. So this is related to product type, because that's what we named it. Except I need to type it properly. So the class name, and then you have to give it an on Cascade, and you have to say what to do. And you can have, there's some options. There's Cascade. So there's on Cascade. Is it models on Cascade?
Yeah, was that deleted?
So is it, I wish I had the IntelliSense. On delete, that's it. So on delete, you can cascade. Equals models dot cascade. It was all caps, right?
Yeah.
And is it I think that's right. So what that says is that if you delete the product type, it will delete the product, which is probably not what you really want. There are other options there, which if I had the IntelliSense, I could see. I think that there's an option of nothing or none. Do nothing. Anybody have IntelliSense?
Trying to go,
What?
go, in the go to type range. I need to go down and
Oh, I have do nothing.
Yeah, I think do nothing.
Ungly equals models dot do nothing.
And is it all caps?
Yeah, with a underscore in between do and nothing.
This would probably be better than Cascade, just because you don't necessarily want to delete all of the products that relate to the product type. This is a database thing, actually, cascading. It's something you can add to a database. When you delete the parent, if you've added basically a relational, there's on delete and on update. And if you can say on delete cascade, that means that if the parent is deleted, you delete all the children. Or you can say, if you do nothing, it's actually the default. You know, don't delete it. You can also replace with 0 or something.
You only have to do that with foreign key.
Yeah, it's a foreign key action. Yeah. I'm hoping mine works. The lack of IntelliSense scares me. So what else do we want to know about the product? We got the name. We got the type. I mean, we can look, but we can make our own fields, whatever we want. I did entry date. I did a user for the person that entered it. We could do that. So I have user, entry date, the URL, and the description. Again, we don't have to do all of those, but I just... So if I did user, then I could say equals models foreign key. Hey, now I got it. Just took a while. So foreign key, we want user, and we want to do on delete probably nothing. I wouldn't necessarily want to delete all the products that a user had entered. Right. This is different than the other one because I think I just did cascade in the other one. So then I did product. What was the next one? URL?
Entry date, product URL.
All right, so let's do entry date. And we can do, this one would be models. You know what's not working? This is weird. If I do, so I did foreign key, and it seemed to be happier instead of models foreign key. If I do, no, it's not doing it, so let's do models. I'm not getting anything from models. But if I do date, no, it's not giving me date field either. So let's do models. Dot date field. This should have models in front of it also. But it's weird, I got foreign key as a, oh, I have models in front of it. Never mind, my brain is gone. Which is not good. Well, luckily, we're only doing 3 classes. So then let's do product URL and then product description. So we'll do models dot car. See, there it is. Oh, actually, let's don't do car field. Let's do URL field. URL field, which is not giving me that.
At least on my end, the URL is all caps.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I think we can just leave that as that. Although if you want to, you could say null equal true, blank equal true. Just to, and those should have caps T's. Just in case you don't have a URL to enter. And then product description. We didn't call this product description, right? This should be. We did. Let's call this type description. Lowercase t. I was ahead of myself there. But what we want here is I think we just want a text field. Models.text field. And a text field is like a big block. It allows you to enter a block of text. So that's our models one. We need to add a couple of little things to that. I'm still worried that this isn't going to work because I'm not getting any IntelliSense. I hope it's just the IntelliSense and not because something else is wrong. So I am going to press enter, and I'm going to do that def string self. And what we want to do is the product name. So we want to return self.product name. And if we want, we can do the meta. Class meta. And I'll just do the DB table equal And we'll just do products. Well, let's do product singular. Okay, so that's that class. I don't know if I can get it all in the window at once. Are you guys running in virtual machine down below? I'm wondering if that's part of my IntelliSense.
I am, but I'm not getting, I have the same problem.
You're not having IntelliSense either. Let's hope that it works when we do it. Okay, one last class, which will be the review, for the review of the projects, and we'll do models dot model. And we'll do, so let's say review title, and it'll be models car field. I know why I'm getting car field now. It's because I've entered it up above. It's not because it's max length equal to 55. Review date, and we'll do a date field. We want the product, which is be a foreign key. And it'll refer to product. I did name it product, right? And then it will be on delete so if we delete the product, do we want to delete all the reviews of the product? Maybe we can do cascade here just to have a difference. Okay, so we're going to say the user for the author. And I'm going to do something here that's a little different. I'm going to do dot many to many. This is so that each review could have multiple authors, right? If people want to cooperate to write a review. And many to many, again, IntelliSense would help me.
I think it says many to many field.
Yeah, many to many field, and then we just have to say who it is, where that comes from. And it should be capitalized. And in here we'll say user. Oops, not all caps. User is a table that's been created by the auth, the authentication thing. So, all right. We've got the model, we got the date. We need the actual review. I'm going to say review text. There might be other stuff we want. Is there anything else I had before that? Again, it doesn't have to match exactly. I had a rating. I don't know that we need the rating, but let's do it just for. And I think what I wanted was like a, was it an integer text? Small integer field. Now, one of the things you can do by doing these, like it allows you to like set up whether it's a URL field or a integer field, is when we create forms later, it will enforce that. So if it says it's a URL field, you have to enter a URL, or if it doesn't look like a URL, it'll complain, right? In this case, if we say it's a small integer field, you have to enter a number, and by small integer, I think it's like 0 to 255, but we probably want 0 to 5 or something, the rating. And we could enforce that with if we wanted to write a function, we could enforce it. I'm not going through it right now. This will create a linking table in the database. When you say many to many, and you say what you're making it a many to many to, it will create a linking table for that. So it'll create a table called review user. Okay, so the last thing, are there any of these that we would want to, none of these are really nullable that I can see, except maybe the rating, but we'll let it be required. And then I'm going to do review text. This is the actual text of the review. And it'll be models dot text field. And again, it's coming up in my IntelliSense only because I've typed it before. I just don't know what's happening on my IntelliSense.
Steve, a question. When
Yeah.
When you say the user, the linkage made is going to create a review user, where does it get, I don't see how it gets to review. See where it says user.
Well, we're inside review.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Review.
So it will create, so it'll create a review table. It'll create it already has a user table, and then it will create a table that matches user to the review. Because when you say many to many, you're saying that many users could write the same review. So they could collaborate on the review. Mostly I'm doing that to show you how to do a many to many. Right? This is the other way you can do it is you could explicitly create a review user field and do the relationship yourself. This will create it for you. But you could explicitly create the linking table in here if you want. Does that make sense? Judging by some looks, I'd say no, but so I'm going, and then self. And then we just want to return self dot probably title, yeah. It makes the most sense to return. And if we do a meta, class meta, again, we could do the DB table. You don't have to do this. You could do, but there are other things you could do. Oh, this is, let's just call it reviews. Yeah. Just review. Now, I've been doing them lowercase. Even if you don't lowercase them, Postgres will. Postgres just defaults everything to lowercase. All right, so that's our whole model. I'm going to save this. And we'll see if we can do this. Now, I probably need to go into the, let's see if I do. I'm going to try this command. It probably will not work. Python 3, manage Pi, make migrations. So it isn't working, and that's because, anybody know? I don't have the virtual machine running for whatever reason, which may have been part of the IntelliSense issue, actually. I just wanted to make sure I didn't type CD up here somewhere, because I typed it down here and it didn't work. All right, so if you are not running the VNV, remember CD double dots takes you back a level, and then I can do activate. This is different on Windows. In Windows, you do not need the activate keyword. VENV and This is also different on Windows. Here it's bin. On Windows it's scripts. And it is activate. And actually activate is not the word I want at the beginning. I want source. Source is the word you don't need on Windows. Okay, so now I'm in here. Now if I do CD Tech Review 2, the thing that's weird to me is that on my laptop where I have Ubuntu and all, I never have to reactivate the environment. And I do not know what the difference is. So Python 3 manage.py. Did I type my Python 3 last time? Or just Python?
Python 3.
I did, okay. Make migrations. So notice what it does. It says create model product type, create model review. And it's adding the fields. If you get that, that's great. If you don't get that, that means that there's probably typos and errors. It hasn't made them yet, just as an aside. So the next thing I'm going to do is, instead of make migrations, I'm going to migrate. You have to do make migrations first to create them, and then I'm going to migrate them. Did it give me an error?
It doesn't look like it.
Apply all migrations. So I think it did. Here's a quick way to find out. I'm going to go PG admin. Let me see if it did. Let me Postgres. All right, so I have Tech Review DB. If I look under tables,
Yep.
Yeah, I have them. I mean, it created for me. It created product type review, and review user.
Yeah.
And if you look under, so let's look under product and columns. Notice it created an ID, and then it has product name, product entry date, product URL, product description, product type ID, and user ID. Yeah.
Keep it back to the, just show them that.
Yeah, just a second. So you have next link somewhere. Last name. This one is DNA. So look at when you, if it didn't work, look at the look at your errors. One of the things I really want you to learn how to do is to read your own error messages. It will tell you, usually the very bottom, the very last thing is the most immediate error. So it should tell you what the error is. Typically, it's a typo.
I didn't catch this. Make migrations.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to save. Make sure you save. When you make corrections, the other thing to do is make sure you save, because it won't see the corrections if you don't save the file. It always works when the saved version of the file.
Like my virtual environment.
Right. So it's
Yeah, migrated.
we want to be
It was Python 3 manage.py make migration. Yeah, so Python 3 manage.py make migrations, no space. Yes. Okay, and then you can try to do the migrate. You got it. Oh, so annoying, because they just said that I got charged $60 for something I didn't want. Yeah, like, yeah, I'm planning on doing that after we get out of class. I was, a year ago, I did a subscription to this clothing thing that charges $60 a month. And all of a sudden, a year later, after all of a sudden I get charged, it's like, wait, what? And I completely forgot about it. You gotta be careful. So I'm gonna be like, hey, I don't want this. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I want to charge back the card, obviously, not send me whatever. Not the whole year, of course. So like I said, it was a gift for a whole year's worth of clothing. Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, like I remember. Yeah, but I remember last year it asked for like your card info. So why do I need to get my card info for a gift? And so I usually call them and be like, hey, I don't want you to charge me. But then they only had certain
Yeah,
hours
just a
I
second.
never had
So
time
you
to
need to
do
make the
it.
migrations, right?
So it's just, oh, you've got to be kidding
I'm
me.
coming around in a moment.
Finally.
So let's just do a quick history. Hopefully it's not too long. There's a couple of other things we need to do, but so you need to make the migrations and then migrate. You can't migrate before you make the migrations, and none of it will work if you're not in the virtual environment.
Go to tech review, TV. Tech review, right there.
So what is the?
Then,
So, oh, you are out.
and then if you
If you
check
do
open it right there, right there. Plus, yeah, tables.
Well, we made that last time.
There you go. You got the product, tech review, all that good stuff.
All right, so do URL. Equal.
Oh, you just added S.
Square bracket. That might be good enough, but let's do half. Parentheses.
Just type it out.
Oh, look. Not inside.
Yes. Now you actually have your there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
Let's do from. God. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, that's
identical after the. Yeah, that should be enough for. I know, but if we do that one, we're gonna have to get a template over
Oh, you're just.
So basically, you want to do
Well, you know, it was very hard to pass a week there. Someone said, oh, yeah, we can't sell it. And I checked next month, I think it was 2 months. And it's been not sure. So,
Now, it's not that we'll look for that.
Last time we had to call, which was exactly why I wasn't able to do it, because I never had time.
Right. Well, you did my, go ahead and try it. Oh, you still manage it. You did it. GCD.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where management.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, now it's like, everything's set up. Ready to go. It's not, Python. Oh, no, Python.
So make migration.
Oh, right there. Save it, you don't save it at once.
Yeah.
Give it a go. ID. That's not. I will.
Yeah, that one I did.
Next field is. Next field so models. Okay. Oh, many fields. Yeah.
Do we have?
Yeah, it's fine. That looks good. Yeah, just a second.
I'm going to finish this and then I'll post it to GitHub and we'll, come on, up. One of the things, if you guys think of ways that would make this less chaotic, you could let me know.
Missing some of the concepts for wise.
Yeah,
Do a
so
lot of stuff.
this takes this file, Python3, that command, takes the classes we've done and arranges them for the database. The migrate actually passes them to the database. Now, any typos, when you do make migrations, any typos in your file will come through as an error. If it fails, it is 99% sure that what is the reason is some typo in the model file. Right? Right. Now, one of the things that happened for some of you too is if you don't have any URLs in your URLs thing, it will say that it can't find the pattern. So you need to add it at the index when even if you don't have the actual index HTML file created yet. So the URL file can't be empty. Yeah, question, or you just need? So I'll post this in a minute, but there's a couple other things I want to show real quickly. One of the things that I want to do, so we've posted this to the database. If you haven't yet, we'll get you there, all right? I am going to go to a different file. So I'm going to open this up again. I'm going to go to admin Pi. And what we're going to do is we're going to register our models. This is actually only something to do for, there's an admin tool I'm going to show you. And this is something to do for so that the models will show up in your admin tool. And I'm going to check real quickly because my brain is gone. It's all we have to do is say admin Pi register. I think admin register. I just want the syntax. It's very simple. Admin site register. That was it. So I'm going to go back here. One of the things I'm going to do is from dot models. We're going to import our models. And so we're going to import product type, product, and review. We're going to import all of our models. And then I'm just going to do admin dot register. And then in parentheses, I'm going to do product type. And then I'm going to go down and do it again for each of them. So admin dot register product. And then admin dot register review. So that's all we have to do there. Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, what sort of stuff are you expecting to see when we do this for the Python Club?
So basically what you want to do is your models, right? And I kind of described what fields will go into that. You'll have to choose the types. And then you'll want to register them too.
I mean, we're doing products and reviews again, or
no. So if you look at the assignment, it has meeting. It'll have the meeting. It'll have meeting minutes. It'll have resources, event, and that's it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it told you kind of what to do and what the fields would be. Didn't tell you necessarily what data types to do, though. Most would be car fields, or if it might be fairly obvious if it's a date field. All right, so let's bring this back up again. Having registered, I'm going to save this. Two things, and then I'll post this on GitHub, and then I'll come around. So one of the things I want to do is I want to create a super user. This is basically for the admin again. Have any of you ever used PHP admin? One per a couple, not many. This is going to look a lot like it. So, and this is something that'll help you with your site, but it's not necessarily, it's not a user view. You don't want users to be doing this. So I am going to Python. I hope I'm not typing that somewhere up in the code. Okay. Python 3, let's close this Zoom. Let's close that. Python 3. And again, I hope I didn't type 3 up there. Manage Pi. So Manage Pi is something you're going to come back to a lot, right? It's kind of does all your stuff. And I'm going to, I believe it's create super user. It might be make super user. If create fails, no, it doesn't understand register. What is it? Is it register with a lower R?
Admin site register.
Oh, admin site dot site.
That's what you have on the GitHub.
Yeah, it should be so it's admin site.
Admin dot site.
Admin dot site dot register with a capital R.
Register, no,
Not capital. It was giving me IntelliSense for the capital register, but that was coming from the admin, and that's not what we want. And that's how it looked. File. Save. All right, so let's try. I think it's make super user anyway down here. Make super user. Yeah, no, it's create super user. I was right the first time. It's create super user. I was right the first time. All right, so I know it's hard to see, and I don't know of a way to lift this, but it's doing it, and it says leave blank to use Steve. So it's asking me what the username is. If I want it to be Steve, I can leave it blank, which I'm going to do. But if you want to give it a name, like your own name, you're welcome to do that. So if you want it to be something other than Steve, you type it right here. And then the email address, for some reason it wants an email address. I will give it my Gmail address. It doesn't use it. I don't know why it wants it. And then the password, I'm just going to do p@ssw0rd1. You can do whatever password you want, but if you forget it, you're out of luck. All right, so I have created a super user. Again, the super user is just for logging into the admin. So I typed in create super user. So Python 3 manage Pi create super user. It gave me a little message, and then it said for username leave blank to leave it as Steve, which is what I did. So my username is Steve. Again, you could type your name or something else there if you want. And then it wants an email address. It doesn't check it. It doesn't have to be valid. It wants it. And then password, and repeat that. Again, if you type in a different password than our standard, it's up to you to remember it. I can't help you if you lock yourself out.
Can you make one?
What?
Can you make more than one super user?
You know, actually you can. I mean, I've done it before where I did screw up and then I made a new super user.
So you don't have to delete everything, you don't have to restart, you can just create another.
You can just create another super user. Give me a second. I want to show you what this is doing.
I mean, I could,
You can't have a blank.
yeah, it's mine. He said it didn't really matter though.
It doesn't allow blank passwords. I think you could get away with pass or something simple like that. All right, so I'm all done with the console here. I want to go here and I want to open, what was it, HTTP, this, except instead of tech app, why doesn't it like tech app? Oh, I'm not running server. I need to run server. So I'm not done there yet. Let's go back here. I have to run the server. So I want to do Python 3. Manage Pi. Run server. All right, so I'm running the server. So Python 3 manage Pi run server. And I'm going to go actually to here. This will connect right now, but that's not what I really want to do. Instead of tech app, I'm going to do admin. Notice it gives me a Django administration thing. So I replace tech app with admin. And I'm going to log in. My username, remember, is Steve because I didn't change it. My password is p@ssw0rd1. And it lets me into here. And notice I can manage groups and users. I can manage product types. I can add and I can edit them. I can add products and products. Well, one of the things that we'll do, first thing Wednesdays, we'll add some data in here so that when we do our form, you know, our methods, we have something to show. So if I wanted to add, now if I look under users, there's only one user at this point. Right? Later we'll add some just to have some extra users. If I go back, I'll go back to home. If I look at product types, it has 0 product types. And if I go all the way over to the edge, I can add a product type. And it will give me a little form. So I have the type name. Oh, let's say we want to review laptops. So that will be a type. This is gray because I can type something in it or not. Remember, we made it nullable.
So is this like default CSS? Or?
This is, I mean, it's their own website. It's something you get for free. But I would not, this website is not meant for users. It's for administrators. They should not have access to this. Because you can do anything, right? So if I do, let's just add.
Is this from Django?
This is from Django. So I could save and add another, or I can save and continue editing, or I can just save. When I save it, boy, that's big. I come back and I have laptop. If I go back here, I mean, I can add all of these. So product would have all the fields.
Just admin. No club. Just admin.
Yeah, it's just admin. So here's the field, the form for adding. Now, a couple things about these forms. These are a lot like what the forms will look like when we create forms. It's amazing how easy. Now, you could create a form the way old-fashioned way, like a HTML form, and then assign the fields to each of them. But it actually has a thing where it just says, I want a form in a table. and you tell it what the model is, and it'll create a form that looks just like this. I mean, it's really easy when we get to that. So if I had a product name, we've only got laptops, so Lenovo, that's what I got for my daughter. Product type, laptop, it gives you a drop-down list there. Only Steve is a user. I can choose a date, it gives you a date time picker. That won't be in the forms. We could add it, but it's not there. So let's just do today. Product URL, I have no idea. Doesn't have to be real. Lenovo.com or Lenovo.com. I did go there actually when I took my daughter's computer because she wasn't using it anymore. I went there to see what they said about wiping it for Linux. They didn't really say anything, so I just wiped it. It worked fine. Product description. Laptop. Any better description? Laptop. Fairly decent, middle of the road. Whatever you want to type. What? Has a good keyboard. This isn't the review, by the way. This is just so you'd probably actually want like descriptions of the features. So again, you can save and add another, save and continue editing, just save. And when I come back up, it'll be there. Now, the last thing I want to do, having typed in these, I'm going to go back to PHP admin. I'm going to, boy, that's huge. I'm going to do SQL. And for the database, I'm going to use TechReview. And I'm just going to do like select star from product. And I will execute that. And over here, you'll see that it has Lenovo. It has that product. So when you write it to the admin, it immediately writes it to the database. And the same for all the others. Everything that we write in the admin will automatically go there. And later we'll create our own forms and things. But this is a place to start, and you can add some sample data here so that the rest works. All right, so I'm going to post everything on GitHub and spend 5-10 minutes debugging if we need. So let me just put it onto GitHub. I think, do I have, there we have. So let's go up. Let's just go to so TechReview 2. I'm going to upload files. The easiest thing to do is to go to the file folder, go to Django projects, just find TechReview 2, and drag that whole folder in. I always double click so I get doubles. So they will be. You have to commit them. So I'm going to say commit. I'm going to say it's an add models commit because that's what I did it.
When you do the Python.
Yeah, when you do it now, you're welcome to post the tech review too, but Python is what I want to see for the assignment. So I'm going to commit these, and then the code should be there. I will put in somewhere, I'll write down the other thing, the manage migrations, the commands to do that. Manage migrations, migrate, create super user. That's really the 3 commands. So there's a holiday. I assume that probably Wednesday will be an open lab to do this unless I come back on Wednesday and see that you've all miraculously finished this. No, because it's a holiday. So now when I look, so let's go into Tech App here, and you'll see that Models now has code. So the Models code is there. This is mostly what we added, and then the other thing that we did that I screwed up initially is the admin. So if I go back to Tech App and do the admin, if you don't do this, if you don't do admin site register, the models won't appear in the admins. That's essentially what it does. It makes them available to the admin site. Okay, so it's all up there. The code that we did in class is all there. All right, how did we do? Are most people kind of there, kind of not? Everything that we do from now on will be simpler, but there's always going to be like 3 steps. There's going to be, the model will probably not touch again, all right? But usually what we're going to do is we're going to create a view. We're going to create a template for that view, and we're going to add the URL. That's kind of what will happen every time from now on. Create a view, create a template, add a URL. So those 3 steps every time.
Each time we do that, we create another app.
No, it's all part of this app. Yeah. If you create another app, they won't talk to each other. It'll be a bit confusing.
So we're going to build different components.
Basically we're building one app, and where all of the assignments are just adding to this app. So I will give you time on Wednesday, as I said, unless I just find that all of you have finished it by some miracle. You could, I mean, if you want to work, if you're only working in here, then there's probably not going to be much chance of finishing it. If you're working on your laptops, you might be able to.
If I have until 12:30, I can probably finish it.
Yeah, you have till 12:30. Anybody desperate for help?
You have a class that follows us, right?
I have a class at 1. Yeah.
Would you allow us to stay in here? That idea.
Well, you can't all stay in here. Some of you might be able to.
I need to stop.
Keith, come.
That's the first 4. We created a product.
And now you want to.
We made this.
So if you wanted to,
Any other? Yeah, you can see if any of it. Yeah.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no. Yeah, so that we're understanding that's the second generates. So you need well, she did. She had a large file. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. You know, I submitted it, but I feel like I gotta look it up. It's a free host, free server, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Because I was doing it, I know you was. Oh, I know it is. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, we're gonna go. That was the Oh, yeah. Well, it's exactly why I'm Monday. All right, so what's now? Okay, so you're it's just that's just the dummy HTML she gave us. Yes. So that's just index. So then we go. Okay. No, they're changing. And that's a different file. So, books, whatever. Still have 100 and just have 10%. So, like that button. Source. You're not going to see this. This is the notice of discount. Latest that feature. And mind you, we can't see the feature part of it because it's in the Windows server. So where's that?
So yeah, it looks strange. Now the difference is you don't have data there. Oh, no, sorry. Not this. So this second part is what we're seeing here with the data in here. So let's go. So hang on. It's not just first page. It's just okay. And that was that very first page. No. And we I do this right. And it's the same look. The post means receiving information, you get it. So whatever I type in, that's what it flows, right? You fill it in, and then it goes to this code. Then it goes to here. Okay, we got my description. Okay, great. Get the data. And then calculate, do the math. And then format it so it's pretty. Okay. So then what it says, here's the constant. And then now that we have new data, that's the back. Now it's just building a brand new HTML. That's what this is. That's the output. That's the output with the data, and then it's put in the because you shot the page twice. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, what did I do? Well, since she says it's static, she says it's so let me do. Let's try this. That's this stuff.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have Open Lab to do. Yeah, although I just finished it.
So you want to do Python Math?
Give yourself time to stick it in, you know, and try it.
Yeah, I need to go eat food. What? Yeah. So that'd be for the assignments, create those models for the assignments. And, yeah.
Well, first off, you gotta make sure you have.
So you created the systems,
Like CSS.
you have to run
And
it.
and now the index. Okay. And this is just
Python.
so the only difference I see is I added the sales tax.
Actually, I'm not gonna go get lunch. And call back.
So let me ask this, what is the first option? What's not? Show me what you got. Is that, yeah, show me what you got. Because 90%.
If you just wanted to add stuff. So you could add.
You mean like a live site?
So we're going to be reviewing text stuff. So we'll do a little bit of action. I think you're actually,
Oh, I'm sure that.
What? Next Wednesday will be an open house. I'll try, yeah. I need to kill this video. It's got a lot of dead space at the end.